solitary rider emerges on the distant horizon of the Central Asian steppe. As the dust slowly settles, the assembled warriors begin to understand this is no ordinary soldier approaching them. This rider is a woman, a princess, and she is about to challenge the greatest wrestlers of the Mongol Empire to single combat, with her hand in marriage offered as the reward. But what they do not yet realize is this. She has already defeated hundreds of men, and every one of them paid her 10 horses for the honor of losing. Her name is Khutulun, and by the time her story reaches its end, she will command armies of 40,000 warriors, reshape the political landscape of Asia, and become so legendary that her life will inspire stories told 700 years into the future. This is her story, the story history books forgot. The year is 1260. Across the endless grasslands of Central Asia, the Mongol Empire stretches from the Pacific Ocean to the very borders of Europe. It stands as the largest contiguous land empire in human history. And into this world of conquest and domination, a child is born. Her name is Khutulun, meaning bright moon in the Mongolian language. Yet there is nothing gentle about the destiny awaiting her. She is born to Khaidu Khan, a direct descendant of Genghis Khan himself. Her grandfather is Ogdi Khan, the third great Khan of the Mongol Empire. She has 14 brothers, 14 princes who, by every tradition, are expected to inherit power, while she is meant to fade into the role reserved for Mongol noblewomen. A political marriage to seal alliances, a life lived in the shadow of men. But Khaidu is not a typical father, and Khutulun is not a typical daughter. From the moment she can walk, she trains alongside her brothers, not as ceremony, but as a warrior. The training is merciless. Mongol children learn to ride before they can properly run. They learn to fire arrows from horseback at full gallop. They learn to survive for weeks on nothing but dried meat and mare's milk. They learn that weakness means death. Khutulun excels at all of it. By the age of 10, she rides harder than boys twice her age. By 12, she wrestles grown men to the ground. By 15, she trains with the elite warriors of her father's guard and defeats them. But this is what makes her different. She does not simply match the men around her. She surpasses them. Picture the scene. A training ground beyond Khaidu's camp. Dozens of warriors practicing combat techniques. And at the center, a teenage girl hurling seasoned soldiers into the dirt with moves that leave them gasping for air. Her brothers watch with pride and with something else, something closer to fear, because they're beginning to understand a truth that will change everything. Their sister may be the strongest warrior among them all, but strength alone would not make Khutulun legendary. What followed would transform her into a figure so powerful that her enemies would tremble at the sound of her name. And it began with a decision that shocked the entire Mongol court. By the time Khutulun reaches adulthood, her reputation spreads across the steppe like wildfire. Stories travel from Mongolia to Persia. The princess who fights like a demon. The warrior who has never been defeated. Khaidu Khan watches his daughter with growing admiration and growing concern. The political situation is fragile. The Mongol Empire, once united under Genghis Khan, has fractured into rival khanates. Khaidu himself is locked in near-constant conflict with Kublai Khan, who claims authority as Great Khan of all Mongols. Alliances shift like sand. Marriages are weapons. Every daughter of a Khan represents a potential treaty. Suitors begin arriving at Khaidu's court. Princes, generals, wealthy merchants, all seeking Khutulun's hand in marriage. She refuses them all. Her father pressures her. You must marry, he tells her. It is expected. You are a princess of the Golden Family. Your marriage could secure alliances we desperately need. And Khutulun makes a proposal that will become legendary. I will marry, she says, but only the man who defeats me in wrestling. And every man who challenges me and loses must pay 10 horses. The court falls silent. Wrestling is sacred among the Mongols. It is a test of strength, skill, and honor. And Khutulun is turning it into a marriage contest, placing herself on equal footing with any man in the empire. Some call it arrogance. Others call it madness. But Khaidu pauses, then smiles. Very well, he says. Let the challenges begin. The first challenger arrives within weeks. A prince from a neighboring territory. Confident, powerful. He brings 10 horses as his wager. The entire camp gathers to watch. The match lasts less than 2 minutes. Khutulun moves like lightning. She feints, grips, twists. Before the prince understands what is happening, he is face down in the dirt, his arm locked behind his back. The crowd erupts. Khutulun stands almost without effort and claims her 10 horses. The second challenger follows, then a third, then a 10th, then 100. Some are skilled wrestlers. Some rely on raw strength. Others study her previous matches, searching for weaknesses. None of it matters. Khutulun defeats them all. The collection of horses continues to grow. 10 becomes 100. 100 becomes 1,000. According to Marco Polo, who later documented her story, Khutulun eventually accumulates more than 10,000 horses from defeated suitors. 10,000. But what the legend does not always explain is this. These are not simply victories. They are declarations. Every time Khutulun steps onto the wrestling ground, she announces to the entire Mongol world that she is not property to be traded. She is a warrior, an equal, and she alone will choose her fate. The matches evolve into grand events. People travel for weeks just to witness them. Bets are placed. Stories spread. And with every victory, Khutulun's legend grows stronger. But one match rises above all others. A champion arrives from a distant khanate. A man who has never lost a wrestling match in his entire life. He brings not 10 horses, but 100. A fortune meant to demonstrate absolute confidence. And he makes Khutulun a promise that will change everything. His name is rarely recorded in surviving histories. Some sources call him the champion of champions. Others remember him only as the one who almost won. He is enormous, taller than most Mongols, with shoulders like a bull and hands said to crush stone. He has defeated more than 500 opponents in sanctioned matches. He is trained in traditional Mongolian wrestling, but also in techniques learned from Persian and Chinese fighters. By every measure, he is the most formidable opponent Khutulun has ever faced, and he knows it. When he arrives at Kaidu's camp, he does not come quietly. He brings his full retinue, servants, guards, banners displaying his victories. His arrival is deliberate theater, designed to ensure that everyone understands this is not merely another challenger. This is the man destined to defeat the undefeatable princess. The challenge is accepted. The date is set. And for the first time in years, uncertainty creeps into the air. Could this be the match where Khutulun finally falls? Even Kaidu feels doubt. In private, he speaks with his daughter. "You do not have to accept this challenge," he tells her. "This man is different. He is a professional wrestler trained since childhood. There is no shame in refusing." Khutulun meets her father's gaze, eyes sharpened by 100 victories. "If I refuse now," she replies, "everything I have built becomes meaningless. Every victory will be hollow. Every man I defeated will claim I only won because I chose my opponents carefully." She pauses. "I will fight him, and I will win." The day of the match arrives. The entire camp empties to watch. This is no longer entertainment. This is history unfolding. The champion enters first. He performs the traditional eagle dance, the ritual movements that open every Mongol wrestling match. His motions are powerful and assured. He has performed this dance hundreds of times before victory. Then Khutulun enters. The crowd falls silent. She wears the standard wrestling attire, a small vest exposing the chest and back, heavy boots, and short trousers. It is the same outfit worn by every wrestler, male or female. But on her, it carries a different meaning. She is not merely a competitor. She is a symbol. The eagle dance begins again. She mirrors his movements, but her style is different. Where his motions are aggressive, hers are fluid. Where his display raw strength, hers reveal precision. They circle one another, and then the match begins. The champion lunges forward with terrifying speed for a man of his size. His hands reach for Khutulun's vest, searching for the grip that has defeated countless opponents. But she is already moving, slipping aside with impossible grace. He adjusts and charges again. This time, he secures a grip and pulls, using his superior weight to drag her forward. The crowd gasps. No one has ever pulled Khutulun off balance before. She does not resist. She adapts. As he pulls her forward, she drops her weight, rotates, and turns his momentum against him. He stumbles. For a fraction of a second, he is unbalanced. That is all she needs. Khutulun hooks her leg behind his, seizes his vest with both hands, and pulls. Physics does the rest. All that size, all that strength, all that confidence. The champion crashes to the ground like a fallen tree. Dust explodes around them. For a heartbeat, no one breathes. Then Khutulun rises. She extends her arms in the traditional victory pose. The camp erupts in cheers loud enough to carry across the steppe. The champion lies on his back, staring at the sky, struggling to understand how he lost. In less than 30 seconds, his undefeated record is shattered by a woman half his size. Khutulun claims her 100 horses. She helps the champion to his feet, honoring a worthy opponent. Then she does something no one expects. She offers him a position in her father's army. "You're a skilled fighter," she tells him. "Your strength belongs on the battlefield. Serve my father, and you will have the honor you seek." Some see mercy. Others see strategy. By turning defeated rivals into allies, Khutulun is building not only a legend, but a foundation of power. The champion accepts. And as Khutulun leaves the wrestling ground, one truth is undeniable. She is not merely equal to any man in the empire. She may be superior to all of them, but becoming the greatest wrestler in the Mongol world is only the beginning. What comes next will elevate her from legend to something greater, because she is about to prove that her dominance in the wrestling ring is nothing compared to her brilliance on the battlefield. Before continuing with Khutulun's extraordinary journey, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Each week, we uncover forgotten heroes like this, warriors, rulers, rebels, whose stories deserve remembrance. Activate the notification bell so you do not miss the next episode, and leave a comment below. Who is your favorite forgotten hero from history? Now, let us return to Khutulun's story, because it is about to grow even more intense. The wrestling matches made Khutulun famous, but what she accomplished on the battlefield made her immortal. By 1275, the political situation in Central Asia reaches a breaking point. Kublai Khan, ruling from his capital in China, claims authority over all Mongol territories. Kaidu, Khutulun's father, refuses to recognize this claim. He views Kublai as corrupted by Chinese customs, having abandoned the true Mongol way of life. War becomes unavoidable, and when Kaidu assembles his army, he makes a decision that shocks his generals. He appoints Khutulun as one of his commanders. Not a ceremonial role, not a symbolic title, a genuine military commander with tactical authority over thousands of warriors. Some of the older generals protest. She's a woman, they argue. The men will not follow her into battle. Kaidu's response is brief. Watch them. Khutulun's first true test comes during a skirmish near the Talas River. Kaidu's forces clash with a detachment of Kublai's army. The battle is chaos. Cavalry charges, volleys of arrows, hand-to-hand combat amid dust and blood. Khutulun rides with a unit of 300 horsemen. Her objective is simple: flank the enemy and sow chaos in their rear. But as her force maneuvers, she discovers a fatal problem. The enemy has positioned a reserve exactly where she intended to strike. If she proceeds, her 300 riders will be annihilated by a force 3 times their size. In that moment, with arrows flying and men dying, Khutulun reveals her tactical brilliance. She does not retreat. She does not force the attack. Instead, she divides her force. 200 riders continue the flanking maneuver, making as much noise as possible, creating the illusion of a full assault. The enemy reserve moves to intercept them. Meanwhile, Khutulun leads the remaining 100 riders in a wider arc, riding faster, staying hidden behind the ridgeline. By the time the enemy realizes the deception, Khutulun has positioned her force directly behind their command post. She leads the charge herself, screaming a Mongol war cry that chills the blood of everyone who hears it. The assault is devastating. The enemy command collapses. Officers fall before they can organize a defense. And in the chaos, Khutulun performs the battlefield maneuver that will become her signature. She rides straight toward an enemy officer, a general, identified by his armor and banners. He is surrounded by guards, but she does not hesitate. She charges through them as if they are nothing. Then, in a moment that seems impossible, she leans from her saddle, grips the general by his armor, and tears him from his horse. She holds him against her side like a sack of grain and rides out of the enemy formation with him captive. When the enemy soldiers witness their general seized by a single warrior, morale collapses. The battle becomes a rout. Khutulun returns to her father's camp with the captured general. When she throws him at Kaidu's feet, the entire army watches. From that moment on, no one questions whether men will follow her into battle. They will because she wins. This becomes her pattern. Over the next 15 years, Khutulun participates in dozens of battles. She commands forces ranging from hundreds to tens of thousands. Her reputation grows not only for physical strength, but for intelligence and adaptability in warfare. She studies her enemies. She alters tactics. She understands that Mongol warfare is not merely about overwhelming force. It is about mobility, deception, and psychological dominance. And she masters all of it. Historical accounts record that Khutulun personally captured enemy warriors in combat on multiple occasions. Her technique of seizing opponents from horseback becomes associated with her alone. Enemy soldiers begin to fear the sight of a woman charging toward them, knowing that if she reaches them, they are already defeated. But what truly sets Khutulun apart is this. She does not only fight, she protects. In one documented incident, a portion of Kaidu's army is ambushed during a retreat. The rear guard is being slaughtered by pursuing enemy cavalry. The situation is desperate. Men are dying. The entire army risks destruction if the pursuit is not halted. Khutulun does not wait for orders. She gathers every rider she can find, nearly 2,000 horsemen, and launches a countercharge directly into the pursuing force. The enemy expects a chaotic, desperate assault. Instead, they are struck by a perfectly executed cavalry attack that smashes into them like a hammer. Khutulun's riders break through the formation, wheel around, and strike again from the opposite direction. The enemy collapses. The rear guard is saved. From that day forward, Khutulun's reputation is sealed, not just as a warrior, but as a leader who will risk everything for her soldiers. Her troops call her the princess who fights like 10 men. But those who serve under her use another name. They call her the shield of the people. But all of this military success creates a problem Khutulun never anticipated. Her influence grows too large. Her reputation becomes too powerful. And slowly, it begins to threaten the very family she has spent her life defending. The conflict that emerges will force her into the most difficult decision she will ever face. By 1290, Khutulun has become the most powerful of Kaidu's children. Not because she is the eldest, not because she is male, but because she has earned it through nearly 2 decades of unmatched military success. She commands armies. She wins battles. And above all else, she holds her father's complete trust. But Kaidu is aging. Years of constant warfare against Kublai Khan have worn him down. He must consider succession. He must decide who will lead his people after his death. By tradition, by law, by every expectation of Mongol culture, one of his 14 sons should inherit power. And yet Kaidu begins to contemplate something radical. What if Khutulun were his successor? When rumors of this possibility spread through the court, the reaction is explosive. Khutulun's brothers are outraged. The eldest, in particular, sees his birthright slipping away to his sister. Advisors warn Kaidu that naming a woman as heir could fracture his power base entirely. Allied Khans send messages questioning whether they would honor agreements made with a female ruler. The pressure on Kaidu is immense. And Khutulun watches all of it with growing unease, because she understands something others do not. Her father's favor is becoming poison. In private councils, Kaidu makes his preference clear. Khutulun is worth 10 of her brothers, he tells his advisors. She has proven her ability in every way that matters. Why should gender decide leadership when skill can decide instead? But the advisors resist. The Mongol Empire has never had a female Khan. Such a precedent, they argue, would destabilize everything. Allies would defect. Enemies would sense weakness. Kaidu is trapped. If he names Khutulun his heir, he risks civil war among his children and rebellion among his vassals. If he does not, he knowingly passes over the most capable candidate simply to preserve tradition. Khutulun finds herself in an impossible position. She loves her father. She has fought beside him for 20 years. She has bled for his cause and won victories that preserved his rule. But she also sees the cost of her success. Her brothers avoid her. Conversations fall silent when she enters a room. Resentment gathers like a storm. One night, Khutulun seeks her father in private. "You must choose one of my brothers as your heir," she tells him. Kaidu reacts with disbelief and frustration. "None of them possess your abilities," he says. "None have earned what you have earned." "That does not matter," Khutulun replies. "If you name me, this family will tear itself apart. When you die, there will be civil war. Everything we fought for will be destroyed." "You would step aside," Kaidu asks. "You would allow lesser men to rule simply to avoid conflict?" Khutulun answers with words that reveal the depth of her character. "I would preserve what we built. I would protect our people. If that means I cannot rule, then I will not rule. But I will still serve." It is a moment of extraordinary selflessness. She chooses unity over ambition, stability over personal power, her people over a legend. But Kaidu is not ready to surrender the idea. "I will think on this," he tells her. "Perhaps there is another solution." Months pass. The question of succession remains unresolved. Then everything changes. In 1301, Kaidu becomes gravely ill. He is in his 70s, ancient by Mongol standards. Decades of war and strain have taken their toll. As he lies dying, the succession crisis reaches its breaking point. Messengers race between camps. Brothers gather supporters. The entire Khanate holds its breath. And Khutulun makes her move. She gathers all 14 of her brothers and speaks plainly. "Our father is dying," she tells them. "We can either fight one another for power and destroy everything he built, or we can choose a leader together and preserve this Khanate." She studies their faces, then makes her proposal. "We support our brother Horus. He is not the strongest warrior. He is not the greatest general, but he is wise, fair, and diplomatic. He can unite us, and I will serve as his military commander to ensure our armies remain strong." It is a masterstroke. By voluntarily removing herself from the line of succession and proposing a compromise candidate, Khutulun neutralizes the crisis before it becomes civil war. Some brothers are suspicious. Others are relieved. But in the end, they agree. When Kaidu dies, shortly afterward, Horus becomes Khan. Khutulun, true to her word, becomes his chief military commander. She relinquishes the throne she could have claimed. And in doing so, she saves her father's legacy and her family's power. But this is not the end of her story. What follows proves that she never needed a throne to change history. After Kaidu's death, Khutulun faces renewed pressure from her family and the court. "You must marry," they insist. "You have no heirs. You're growing older. The era of wrestling challenges is over." By now, Khutulun is in her 40s. She has spent more than 20 years defying expectations and building a legend that spans continents. Her vast collection of horses, won from defeated wrestlers, has become a genuine economic force within the region. And yet, she has never taken a husband. Now, with her father gone and her authority secure as the Khanate's primary military commander, Khutulun makes an unexpected choice. She decides to marry. The identity of her husband is unclear in historical records. Some sources suggest his name may have been Ghassan or Abatai. What is certain is this: he is not a prince, not a famous warrior, not a champion wrestler. He is an ordinary man drawn from among her father's most loyal soldiers. Someone she trusts, someone who has served faithfully, someone who, most importantly, will never attempt to control her or diminish her authority. The court is scandalized. After rejecting princes and champions, after defeating every man who challenged her, Amassing a legendary fortune in horses, she chooses someone entirely unexpected. But this decision is entirely consistent with who Khutulun has always been. She acts on her own terms. Always. The marriage is quiet, lacking the grand ceremony expected of a woman of her rank. And notably, Khutulun does not relinquish her military command. She does not withdraw into domestic life. She continues to lead armies, continues to ride into battle, continues to be the warrior she has always been. Her husband becomes something rare within Mongol society, a man defined not by his own achievements, but by the legend of his wife. And according to the limited records that survive, he appears perfectly content in this role. Yet beneath this seemingly stable resolution, a darker undercurrent begins to surface. Whispers spread, rumors take hold, accusations emerge. Some claim Khutulun poisoned her father to prevent him from naming an heir. Others suggest she secretly killed brothers to secure her power. Still others accuse her of practicing witchcraft, insisting her strength and success must have come from dark magic. None of these accusations are ever supported by credible evidence. None are proven, yet they persist in historical records written by chroniclers who struggle to accept that a woman could achieve what Khutulun achieved through skill and merit alone. This is the double edge of her legacy. She is so extraordinary that people find her impossible to believe. They invent supernatural explanations. They fabricate crimes. They construct narratives that fit their worldview, even when those narratives contradict all available evidence. Khutulun ignores the rumors. She has work to do. Under Orus' rule, with Khutulun serving as military commander, the Khanate remains strong. She continues to lead campaigns. She continues to secure victories. She continues to act as the shield that protects her people. The historical record grows less clear in her later years. Some sources claim she dies in battle, falling as she lived, sword in hand. Others suggest she dies peacefully of natural causes, surrounded by family. The truth is lost to time. What is certain is this. By the end of her life, Khutulun has served as a military commander for more than 30 years. She has taken part in dozens of major battles. She has personally captured enemy warriors in combat more times than can be counted. She has accumulated immense wealth and horses from defeated challengers. She has shaped the succession of one of the most powerful khanates in the Mongol world. And she has done all of it while being a woman in a society that insisted women could do none of these things. But this is not where her story ends. After her death, her legend does not fade. It changes form. 700 years after Khutulun's death, her story resurfaces in an unexpected way. In the 13th century, a Venetian traveler named Marco Polo journeys across the Mongol Empire. He spends years in the court of Kublai Khan, recording what he sees and hears. When he returns to Europe, he writes the travels of Marco Polo. In this account, he tells the story of a warrior princess, a woman who defeats all challengers in wrestling, rides into battle, and captures enemy soldiers with her bare hands. He calls her Agarn, likely a corruption of Ayurug, one of Khutulun's alternative names. European readers are captivated and skeptical. A woman defeating men in combat, commanding armies? Surely this is exaggeration. Oriental fantasy. The kind of tale travelers invent to make distant lands seem more exotic. But the story does not disappear. Instead, it transforms. In the 18th century, an Italian playwright named Carlo Gozzi writes a theatrical work titled Turandot. The story follows a powerful princess who challenges her suitors with impossible trials, destroying those who fail. Her name, Turandot, is derived from Turandot, daughter of Turan, a reference to Central Asian origins. The inspiration is clear. Khutulun's wrestling challenges have been reshaped through centuries of retelling. Then, in the early 20th century, Italian composer Giacomo Puccini adapts Gozzi's play into an opera. Turandot becomes one of the most famous operas in the world. Its arias are performed in opera houses from New York to Sydney. Millions watch a story of an unconquerable princess who refuses submission. Almost none realize they are witnessing a legend that began with a real woman on the Mongol steppe 7 centuries earlier. Khutulun's influence extends far beyond opera. In modern Mongolia, she is remembered as a national hero. Traditional Mongolian wrestling honors her memory. Young girls are taught her story as proof of what Mongol women can achieve. Contemporary historians studying the Mongol Empire have begun to re-evaluate her importance. For centuries, she was treated as a curiosity, a footnote in her father's biography. Today, scholars recognize her as a major political and military figure in her own right. She proved that gender restrictions were cultural constructs, not natural laws. She demonstrated that women could excel in traditionally male domains when given opportunity and training. She showed that leadership has nothing to do with gender and everything to do with capability. And she achieved all of this without modern feminism, without contemporary language of equality, without philosophical frameworks to justify her existence. She simply acted. The most remarkable aspect of Khutulun's life is this. She never asked permission. She did not request to train as a warrior. She trained. She did not ask to refuse marriage. She refused. She did not ask to command armies. She commanded. She lived by a principle that was radical in the 13th century and remains radical today. The only permission required to be extraordinary is your own. There is one final twist to her story. Those accusations. The rumors of poison, witchcraft, and murder. Modern historians have examined them carefully. They have analyzed sources, compared accounts, and studied the political context. Their conclusion is clear. The accusations were almost certainly fabricated by later chroniclers unable to reconcile Khutulun's success with their beliefs about women. If she had poisoned her father or murdered her brothers, why would she voluntarily step aside from succession? Why would she support her brother Orus rather than seize power herself? Why would she continue serving instead of ruling? The accusations collapse under scrutiny. The real scandal is not what Khutulun supposedly did. It is what people needed to believe about her to make her existence acceptable. Her achievements were so far beyond expectation that inventing crimes felt easier than accepting excellence. And that reveals something unsettling about how history is written. How many other exceptional women were erased, distorted, or dismissed because their success threatened accepted norms. We will never know, but we know this one. And her story survived not because people wanted to preserve it, but because her impact was too large to fully erase. She won too many battles, defeated too many champions, commanded too many soldiers. Even those who tried to diminish her could not make her disappear. Khutulun died sometime in the early 14th century. The date is unknown. The circumstances are unclear. Her final resting place has never been found, but her legacy remains. She proved that the only limits on human potential are the ones we accept. That tradition is merely the opinion of the past. That strength comes in forms society often fails to recognize. She was a wrestler who never lost. A warrior who captured enemies with her bare hands. A commander who led 40,000 soldiers. A princess who chose her own path. And she did it without apology, without permission, without compromise. The Mongols had a word for warriors of exceptional courage and skill. Batar. Hero. Khutulun earned that title countless times over. Yet perhaps the most meaningful tribute comes from oral tradition. Even centuries later, Mongol grandmothers tell their granddaughters stories of a princess stronger than any man. A warrior who rode like thunder. A woman who proved that nothing, not tradition, not expectation, not the weight of an empire, could cage someone determined to be free. They end those stories with simple words. Be like Khutulun. Be strong. Be brave. Be yourself. That is her true legacy. Not just victories or battles, but possibility. The door she forced open for everyone who followed. Khutulun proved something that still needs proving today. That heroism has no gender. That strength wears many faces. And that one person who refuses to accept the limits of the world can change what everyone believes is possible. This has been Forgotten Heroes. I will see you in the next episode.